So hello there. Welcome to Life Coach University. This is another Let's Coach session. That's a tongue twister. My name is Norma Frahn, and I am a life coach and integrative nutrition health coach. And I'm here every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern time for my weekly Let's Coach session. And as you might have figured out, if you're new to me, I focus a lot of my talks around um, health, nutrition, weight loss, emotional eating, kind of all things that we're all pretty familiar with, and they're all part of our lives. So that's what you can expect typically on my sessions, and it never fails. As soon as I get on a live call, the lawnmowers start outside. So I hope you can't hear that, but if I get a little distracted, I can really hear it. So we're going to keep going and push through. So let's do a little bit of some housekeeping first, and we'll talk about how you can engage with me or any other coach on these Let's Coach sessions. So I'm looking over to the side a little bit. I have my second monitor set up so I can keep track of questions that are coming in. So let's talk about that first. If you have a question about anything we're talking about, or you want to be coached just by asking some questions and doing it very kind of behind the camera kind of way, you can just do it in the Q&A box. In fact, that's the most popular way people, at least on my sessions, are using Let's Coach. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's just a little button that will come on if you hover your mouse over it, and it says Q&A. All you do is click that, and a box will open up with some text fields. You type in what you want to know, and I will keep an eye on that and respond to it as we go on. Now, if you're interested in actually talking with me, you can raise your virtual hand. Along that same bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen is a little raise hand button. And you just click that, and I'll pay attention for that to come up. And when we see that, I'll do my best to bring you up live so that we can talk that way. And then the other way is to just listen. It's called coaching by proxy. There is so much to be learned just by listening to other people being coached or listening to me answering the questions, because I bet you'll find that somebody's going to ask a question that you wanted to ask too. So don't be shy about putting those questions in there. So the more questions we get, the more information we can give, and the more you have to work with. So it's really a good thing. All right, so that's how we operate here. So I like to start my sessions with something for you to think about. So let's see, what do we have today? Yeah, so today I wanted to talk about a real life challenge that I hear from a lot of my clients. And truthfully, it was something I really struggled with. And in fact, I still sometimes do, because I'm human. We're all human. And when we're talking about our health and food and emotional eating in particular, they're all things that we experience because we're human, and we can't ever expect perfection. So I just want to say that right out of the gate. Um, so even somebody like me who's studied this, who's been trained in these types of things, I still have trouble sometimes staying out of the ice cream and the chips and the Oreos and all the things at night when I want to sit on the couch and just chill out after a long day. So that is something, that nighttime eating, that seems like it's a real struggle for a lot of people. And like how it showed up for me was like, no matter how good I was on that particular day, and I use the word good in the sense of how I ate, did I stay on my diet, that kind of thing. No matter how good I was that day, or how big of a meal I might have had at dinner, I seem to always find myself on the couch at 8, 9 o'clock at night with ice cream, chips, cookies, whatever, just kind of mindlessly eating. Now, for a long time, I blamed my lack of self-control or willpower for not being able to resist that urge. And I tried everything I could to not get off the couch and head to the kitchen. But most of the time, I'd give in And then I go to bed wondering what in the world was wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this to myself? Can you relate to any of that? I'm pretty sure you can, because I have heard this same story so many times from my clients. So, what is it about nighttime eating that gets us so twisted up? So here's what I think. First, I think we have to step back for a second and say, what's actually really wrong with it? Seriously, like, why is nighttime eating something that we think of as wrong or bad? Now, for me, I had this long held diet rule that I picked up somewhere, who knows where, along the way. And my brain kind of put that rule in the category of thou shall not. It was just a bad thing to do. It was like kind of in that, like, it's a sin category to sit down and eat anything after dinner. It was like the worst diet rule that I could ever break, because what happened was, what I made that mean was, when I ate at night, it made it mean that I ruined all my hard work of being good that day. And most people I've worked with have said something similar. It's just something we don't do. It's a rule we don't break. So why then, if we feel so strongly it's just one of these rules that we have to follow, why do we break that rule? Why do we keep doing it? Well, here's what I've come to believe. It has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of willpower, but it does have everything to do with satisfaction, or a lack of it. So let me explain. Now, when I was really dieting and being very restrictive and very militant managing my food, I was never really satisfied. I wasn't satisfied with my body, or I wouldn't have been on the diet in the first place. I wasn't satisfied emotionally, because I was trying to hold myself to some impossible standard, the diet. And I certainly wasn't satisfied physically, because I was depriving myself of food, or I was eating food I didn't even really like. So when the evening rolled around and I was just exhausted from just moving through life, all of that dissatisfaction came down on me like a ton of bricks. All the deprivation I'd created in my life by dieting, depriving myself of food I actually liked, depriving my body from having enough food to function normally, and then depriving my emotional needs, mostly just by ignoring them. It all just kind of came to the surface at night, and all I wanted to do was feel better, just to have a little bit of relief from this incredibly unsatisfied life that I unknowingly created. So, this is just another example of how dieting fuels our emotional eating. The more we try to control our eating through deprivation or dieting, the more we need to soothe away that dissatisfaction that we've created. And usually we do that with food, because food works. Food is comforting, food is soothing, or it works, or we just wouldn't keep doing it. So, in my mind, the answer isn't to try harder or to be more vigilant with the diet or to deprive yourself even more. The answer is to create more satisfaction throughout your day, giving yourself permission to take care of yourself and feed yourself, both physically and emotionally, throughout the day. That's not going to leave you this deprived shell of a person at the end of the day. And then that ice cream and the chips, you're just not going to need them to get the relief that you want. So give that some thought, and see what ways you might be able to create more satisfaction for yourself. And I bet that nighttime eating won't be near the problem for you that it seems to be right now. Trust me, there's so much to this. I could talk for days on this idea of finding satisfaction. If we can just find a little bit of that, more of that throughout the day, the nighttime eating, like I said, just isn't going to be the problem. All right. So that's what I have for you today to take away and think about. Let's see what we can come up with for some questions. Let's see. Okay, here's one. With somebody asking, how can I resist the urge to snack at night? All right, well, here's my first question that I would ask you, and I'm not expecting an answer right now. This is kind of a rhetorical question because you sort of need to be in the moment. But when you feel this urge to snack and then the bigger urge to resist it, why? Why do you want to resist it? This kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with satisfaction and the reasons why we think this nighttime eating is so terrible. Likely you want to resist it because you think that you shouldn't be doing it. There's some reason why nighttime eating should not be a problem for you. Dig into that a little bit. And it could be as simple as saying, yeah, that's exactly it. I don't believe I should be eating at night. Then I would say to you, if that's the case, you really do believe that, ask why again. 5 whys. Ask yourself 5 why questions. Why do you believe that? It's likely, same as me, it's just some rule that you picked up with another diet. It could have been a year ago, it could have been 40 years ago, but it stayed with you and you made it mean that you've done something wrong. So then think, and if that's the case, you could even go a little bit further, like I was saying before. Is that something wrong? Are you making it mean you kind of blew a good day? You were so good up until the nighttime came, and then you wanted to eat, so you had the ice cream. Well, now I've just blown it. I might as well pack it up, forget it, and I'll start again on Monday. That's really common. I hear that a lot. But the thing is, you didn't blow anything. One snack on the couch doesn't take away a whole day worth of being very intentional about your food. Now, that said, when you kind of go through that work, then I would want you to ask yourself, when that urge comes up, what is it that you really need? If you're not physically hungry, what is it that you really need that you think food is going to give you? In my case, it was relief. I had a very, very stressful corporate job. I had, kids at home, my husband, the pets, I mean, all the things. It was all the stuff in my life. I was just exhausted at the end of the day. And I needed relief. And, on top of being exhausted, I was probably on some crazy diet and I was probably restricting myself and I was hungry and I didn't have energy because I wasn't feeding myself enough. So when the nighttime came and I finally sat on the couch, my whole body just kind of collapsed and it was just wanting relief. And food was my source of relief. Could likely be the same for you. So what I started to do, and it took some time to work through this, but asking myself, what do you really need? Sometimes when I could really muster up that focus, what I really needed was to just go to bed. I was tired. I didn't need to sit up and watch TV for an hour or two. So I'd take myself to bed. Sometimes it would be, I just need quiet. So I'd turn off the TV and just sit in the quiet for a few minutes. And sometimes that was enough. I just had to try to find the different things that I needed to actually soothe my nervous system enough so that it could kind of recalibrate and bring me back to a place where I could think logically. And you know what? Sometimes when I asked, what do I really need? I just needed that bowl of ice cream. And that was okay. Like I said, it doesn't ruin your day or your week, your month, whatever means you're tracking, that type of thing. It just means you made a decision to have some ice cream. So I think we have to take some of the power out of that food and that rule that we've created in our minds and accept that we're human and sometimes we just need it. So I hope that helped. Let me just check to see if we've got any questions popping up here. Nope. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's a great one. Can you say more about how dieting is fueling emotional eating? Oh, there isn't enough hours in the day that I can talk about this. So dieting, and I'm talking about the restrictive dieting where we place ourselves on these diets that are not providing us enough food to sustain a really optimal level of body function. I'm talking about dieting where you're removing certain foods or entire food groups, where you're counting, tracking, measuring, weighing, all the things. That's the kind of dieting that I think is the most damaging when it comes to our emotional eating. So how it relates, how does dieting fuel emotional eating? So let's back up the train just a little bit. So most of us go on a diet because we are very dissatisfied with our bodies. We don't like our bodies. Some people have, myself included, have said, I hate my body. The only answer or solution that we know, because we've been told this from as long as we can remember, is that we need to go on a diet. So we go on this diet, it's depriving, there's restrictions, and then when we deprive ourselves of certain foods and restrict that food intake so much, like I've been saying, we feel very unsatisfied and just generally deprived across the board. Now, then there's this other layer that comes in, and this is a really important part. When you are really restricting your food and being very vigilant and militant about what you're eating, the stress and the pressure that often comes with that form of dieting is actually very triggering to your emotional eating needs. And it's really exaggerating them. So if you are somebody that emotionally eats, and by the way, I think we all are emotional eaters. We are human beings. We are emotional beings. And like I said before, food works. We know that it works. It worked when we were infants and it's worked our entire lives. It is comforting. But when you're dieting and restricting and just living in this state of dissatisfaction all the time, and you're typically someone that would turn to food to soothe emotions, what's happening is all that dieting and restriction is going on, and your emotions are just sitting there. You've ripped away the coping mechanism for those emotions, which is the food, and you've left the emotions there just raw and in the open. So everything feels more extreme. Think about it. Think about the last diet you were on. And the littlest thing that just like sent you into orbit, just made you so angry, or you overreacted to compared to how you normally would. For me, it was little things like traffic or the grocery store checkout line. And oh gosh, just little normal life things seem to be amplified for me because I was so on edge, because I wasn't feeding any emotional need that I was having. Because at the time, I fed my emotions with food almost exclusively. So when I ripped out that food, whew, there was nothing there. Those emotions just got bigger and bigger and bigger. But then what always happens to me and anyone else that's gone through this is that you get to a point where you just can't take it anymore. Something happens that triggers it, or your nervous system just says, no more. And you usually go do a complete 180 and you go into this like binge cycle where you just eat everything you want with no regard, with no restriction. And you do that for a period of time until you kind of say, okay, that's enough. But boy, did I blow it this time. I'm back on that diet tomorrow. Then it starts all over again. It just repeats itself. But this time, you're probably being even more strict. You're probably restricting more. Your portions are getting smaller because, darn it, this time you're going to get it right. And you're just like dug in and determined. And the whole cycle just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. So, dieting, this is what I mean by dieting, is actually fueling that emotional eating behavior because you're completely depriving yourself of any emotional relief. And you're taking away the one thing that you had at that time that would give you that relief. So if we don't replace it with anything, we just make it more extreme. So I hope that makes sense. I know I could go on forever like that, but that's just my experience, my personal experience that I've seen in my clients, and just what I've learned just physically and mentally. It always goes back to the diet. The diet is behind all of this. The diet that's creating all of this dissatisfaction in our lives. All right. I love it that these questions are like lining up perfectly with the topic today. So here we go. So how do I feel more satisfied emotionally and physically throughout the day? I wish I had an answer. I could just sit here and read you off a list of things that you could do so that you could feel more emotionally satisfied throughout the day. The first thing, and this might not be a surprise, stop dieting. Stop dieting. Like I said, the dieting is keeping you stuck in this cycle. It's keeping you dissatisfied and keeping you in that diet binge cycle. Now, don't get me wrong. When I say stop dieting, doesn't mean a no regard free for all. You still need to be mindful of how you're treating your body. And treating your body is not treating your body well is not just throwing the doors open and saying, yeah, woohoo, it's a free for all. I can do whatever I want. Not at all what I'm saying. That's often like a really common misconception when I say to someone, stop dieting. And they think that's what's going to happen, but it really doesn't. All I'm saying is give yourself permission to eat, to satisfy both physical hunger and emotional hunger, and listen to your body. Listen to when it's hungry. When it's hungry, feed it. Don't deprive it anymore. And when it's full, when it's satisfied, you can stop eating because you know that the next time you're hungry, there's going to be food. We're not in we've trained our bodies to be in this starvation state through all this restrictive dieting. It's going to take some time to really let your body know that you're trying to do something different here, and you're not going to go into that starvation mode again. So it doesn't need to get all riled up when you make a change. You just got to practice and give yourself permission to eat. Listen to your hunger signals, listening to the cues that your body gives you when it's had enough. And then when you do feel like that urge, like we talked about in one of the first questions, that you just want a snack, that might be okay, sure. But just take that extra minute or two and ask yourself, is there something else that I need? Give yourself that space to kind of examine what your body's telling you, what your mind's telling you. And the more you practice that, because it is a practice, it's being mindful a day or two and thinking that it should all just be different is setting yourself up for big disappointment. It takes time and patience and practice. One second. So the guy that's outside mowing has stirred everything up, and I can feel the allergies all coming on right now. It's that time of year over here in the US. Whew, okay. What else do we have? I think we have time for one more. Excuse me. All right, let's see what we have for one more question. Um, that looks very similar to Oh, okay. It's kind of the same question, but I think I have a different way to explain that might make sense. So someone else is asking, well, then how do I feel more satisfied emotionally and physically throughout the day? So kind of tagging on to what I was just saying a minute ago, to feel more satisfied with your body, your emotions, and then also physically, it's important to really honor those hunger and fullness cues. The signals that your body is giving you that it needs some food, it's hungry. And sometimes in the beginning, when you're first looking for them, they may be hard to spot because they're very dulled if you've been somebody that's been dieting. So it's you can't do this wrong either. So as you're moving through your day, if you start to think you're getting a little hungry, eat something. That's Give yourself permission to do that. This is all about kind of setting aside that diet mentality and like looking inward. And really what that is, that's respecting your body. That's respecting what your body needs rather than trying to let something external to us, like the diet rules, tell us what our body needs, because nobody can tell you except you what your body needs. Excuse me. Now, this also means not only allowing yourself to eat when you're hungry, but you can create more satisfaction by allowing yourself to eat what you really want to eat instead of restricting or depriving yourself or just eating things that you don't even like because they fall in the category of the good foods, which usually means diet foods. I'm so sorry. Boy, it's really kicking up. So, anyways, watch out for that when you're thinking about putting foods in these good food list and a bad food list. Just catch yourself when you're doing that and remind yourself that there is no good or bad foods, that you are working to learn to listen to your body more. And if your body's saying you want a particular thing, allow yourself to have it. Have that experience of enjoying a food, and it will be uncomfortable, especially if you've been dieting and restricting. But just that act of allowing yourself to have it and then practicing that is going to take so much of the energy out of food. The labels that you've placed on it will gradually start to fall away, and you'll no longer see food as good or bad. So when you allow yourself to eat when you're hungry and you allow yourself to eat what you want, food loses some of its glamour and its demonization. We've demonized so many foods through diet culture, but when we can let that stuff fall away and just see it as food, it's no longer something that we see as good or bad, or something that we have to eat as much as we can because we'll never have it again because the next diet starts on Monday. All of that falls away and it's just food. So that's, in my mind, one of the best ways to create more satisfaction in your life. Feed yourself, let yourself eat foods you enjoy, let your body recalibrate and start to function optimally. Feed it, get some sleep, drink some water, and I'm telling you, it will not take long. You will feel so much better physically and emotionally. You'll be able to look through a very different lens of all of the complications around emotional eating in particular. All right. I think we are just about at the end here. Yes, we are. I thank you for listening. And I did not say this in the beginning, but if you happen to be catching this on a replay, and you have a question, I absolutely want to be sure that I answer it for you. The best way to get your questions to me is just go right back to Life Coach University's website, and you can go to the coaches section. Just find my picture, click the big button. I think it's a big yellow button that says Contact Norma, and you can send me your questions, and I'll be able to respond back to you personally. So it's really important to me that anyone who takes the time to listen, whether it's live or on replay, when you have questions, you get a chance to answer them. And you can also email me directly at support@normafrahncoaching.com. My name's right there in the corner for the spelling. And again, I'll respond personally. So come back next week. We're going to keep talking about all things emotional eating. Right now, I am on this mission to uncomplicate emotional eating for people so that you can get on with living a very satisfying life. So come on back next week. We'll talk some more about that. And in the meantime, head on over to Life Coach University and be sure to check out the schedule for the month of all the different Let's Coach sessions. We have some amazing coaches on this team, all different coaching genres, all different coaching styles and specialties. There is literally something for everyone. So give yourself the gift of 30 minutes and talk about getting more satisfaction in your life. If you can drop in a couple of 30-minute coaching sessions where all you just do is listen and take in all of that goodness that's happening on these coaching sessions, you will absolutely create more satisfaction. So give it a shot, and I will see you next Friday. Talk to you soon.